Hi guys, this is session 2, reading the text. This session will focus on a fiction text today called The Paradise Carpet by Jamelia Gavin. Whenever we're reading a text, it's good to understand some of the context behind it, something about the time it was written or how it was influenced by where, when, who it was written by. The Paradise Carpet was written by Jamelia Gavin. She was born in 1941 in India to an English mother and an Indian father. She has written many novels for children, perhaps her best known being Comran Boy, a children's historical novel about Toby, saved from an African slave ship, and Aaron, the illegitimate son of their heir to a great estate. The Paradise Carpet is a short story that explores a group of child slaves that are forced to attempt to weave a lavish carpet for a wealthy gentleman. We're going to start off with a vocabulary builder. Please copy into your notes. The word is slave. You might have an understanding of what a slave means, but to give you a accurate definition, it's a person who is the legal property of someone else and is forced to obey them. Example, he will always be a slave and will never be able to earn his own living. The icon at the bottom obviously represents, in a visual sense, what slave means. And a task, can you write a sentence that accurately includes the noun slave? Pause your slide and have a go at filling in your vocabulary builder. The big question, what happens at the beginning of the story? Context. Before we read the story, we're going to learn about the context. Child labour and the carpet industry. Quick facts from Good Weave, an organisation that certificates rugs made without child labour. Although it is illegal and the carpet industry says it no longer happens, children still work like slaves in the carpet industry in South Asia. They work up to 18 hours a day making rugs by hand. These hand-knotted rugs at high prices in countries like the UK. Children aged 4 to 14 are kidnapped or sold and forced to work. Often they come from extremely poor families or have lost their parents, so it seems like a good opportunity when the agent for a carpet manufacturer promises that the children will be well looked after and given a much better life in a new place. Many never see their families again, so no one in their village finds out that this promise was a lie. Most are not allowed to attend school, so do not get the education they need to get a better job when they grow up. Some have parents who were themselves child labourers and have never known any other life. Due to terrible working conditions, the children are often malnourished. That means that you don't get enough nourishment to feed your body, have poor eyesight, suffer from respiratory diseases from breathing in carpet fibres, get injuries from sharp tools, and become physically deformed from spending long hours sitting at the loom. Given the nature of child labour, it's difficult to give an exact figure, but the International Programme on the Elimination of Child Labour estimates there are 21.6 million children aged 5 to 14 years working in South Asia out of a total of 300 million children in this age group. It could cost an estimated 750 billion over a 20-year period to end child labour. However, the estimated benefit in terms of education and health is about 6 times that, over 4 trillion in economies where child labour is found. Okay, so now you're going to do a task where you check your understanding. Sorry, I'm trying to record this with my youngest daughter sat opposite me, and presently she has a mermaid Barbie in a tub of Play-Doh and is swishing it across the table. So I'm just trying to encourage her to stop. Sorry. Good girl. Check your understanding. How many hours do children spend weaving carpets? From what age are children normally forced to work in the carpet industry? List 3 things that can happen to the children's health and body from working in the carpet industry. Sorry, just to repeat that task, check your understanding. How many hours do children spend weaving carpets? From what age are children normally forced to work in the carpet industry? And 3, list 3 things that can happen to children's health and body from working in the carpet industry. What was the most shocking thing that you've learned about child labour in the carpet industry? Pause your slide and have a go. Okay, active reading. We'll now read the opening of the story. As we read, think about, what are the children doing? What clue are there that the children are being treated in a cruel manner? There's a glossary to the right. Weave, which is form fabric together by interlacing long pieces of thread. Loom is a piece of equipment used to help people weave. Harmonies are musical notes that are pleasing to hear, and hues are a colour or shade. 1 knot blue, 2 knots yellow, 3 knots red, 4 knots green. The young boys chanted the pattern of the carpet they were weaving. Bony little fingers deftly drew the card down the thread, warp and weft, top to bottom, right to left, warp and weft, a knot. Behind the looms, inside a dark mud hut, crouching like caged animals, sat a line of boys, with backs against a wall. Their thin arms rose and fell as they drew the threads from top to bottom, right to left, warp and weft, and knot. They could have been musicians plucking at strings, but these were carpet weavers, whose harmonies were of the eyes, not the ears, as bit by bit the glorious patterns and hues of each rich carpet emerged in the darkness. 1 knot blue, 2 knot yellow, 3 knot red, 4 knot green. The boys wove their thread, prompted and guided by old Rama, the only man among them who had the pattern pinned to an upright in front of him. Check your understanding. Answer the following questions. Who? Who is being described in the first paragraph? What? What are the boys doing? Where? Where do you think this story might be set, and why? Why are their working conditions so bad? Pause your slide and answer the questions. Actually, this is the better slide. So you've got the questions to the right and the text to the left. So the big question was, what happens at the beginning of the story? Could you verbally answer that now? Can you think aloud and decide what actually happens? What are we being shown at the start of the story? Additional task. If you've worked for less than 30 minutes, you must choose one of the following tasks to do. You could draw an image of what you picture in the opening paragraphs. Alternatively, you could look back at the extract we've read this lesson and could start to look at how the writer describes the working conditions of the boys in the preparation for next lesson. Obviously, the recorder has jumped slightly, but you've seen this slide before where you can use the icons to start to unpick the text. And the different icons represent things like mood, who's telling the story, symbolism, what can you infer. Okay, so answers, check your understanding. How many hours a day do the children spend weaving carpets? Up to 18. From what age are children normally forced to work? 4 to 14. List 3 things that can happen to the children's health. I put any of the following. The children are often malnourished, have poor eyesight, suffer from respiratory diseases, from breathing in carpet fibres, get injuries from sharp tools, and become physically deformed. Check your answers and understanding of the following questions. Who is being described in the first paragraph? Boys. It's like a group of enslaved boys. What are the boys doing? They're weaving a carpet. Where do you think the story might be set? I put in a dark mud hut, which kind of, in my mind, makes me think it's somewhere like India or Africa, for example. We don't tend to have mud huts in this country. We don't have mud huts in this country. Why are their working conditions so bad? So there's lots of clues their conditions are bad, such as they are caged, crouching, and have thin arms. We can infer that they are being exploited as child labour. Well done, guys. Hopefully you read and understood that opening and you could verbalise what happened in the beginning of the story. We'll do some more work on it tomorrow. Apologies again for some of the disruptions that went on during recording. Hopefully it's still